You felt it. That quiet worry that a machine is coming for your paycheck. Here's the honest part. The fear isn't crazy, but the thing most people do about it is exactly backwards. AI doesn't make the old money rules useless. It makes one specific bet dangerous, and it makes the boring fundamentals matter more than ever. Let me show you what actually protects you. This is the Money Debrief. I'm Dean. If you're like me, someone who wants to learn the real mechanics behind wealth building, not just hope that things magically improve, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. First, let's aim the fear correctly, because most of it is pointed at the wrong thing. The scary story is AI takes every job and we all end up with nothing. That makes a great headline, but it's not the risk you actually plan around. The real risk is quieter and closer, that your income gets less predictable, that the one salary you've balanced your whole life on becomes a shakier bet, reorganized, automated in parts, or just more replaceable than it felt 5 years ago. You can't control what AI does to the economy, but that shaky, one-legged setup, that you can fix. And the fix is older than AI. Here's what nobody says out loud. The system you're afraid of losing was already fragile. One employer, one salary, one skill for 40 years. That was never as safe as it felt. It just failed slowly and quietly, through layoffs and burnout and industries that faded. So we didn't call it fragile. We called it normal. AI didn't break that model. It's just pulling the crack into the daylight. And that reframe matters, because if you think AI is destroying a safe system, you panic. But if you see that the single salary bet was always a little dangerous, then the move is obvious. The same move that protected people through every wave of change before this one. Don't cling harder to the one leg. Add more legs. So let's start with the good news, because it's bigger than the fear. The fundamentals that build security do not care whether your job is threatened by a robot, a recession, or a bad quarter. Money in the bank for emergencies works the same in every one of those. Low fixed costs, a life that doesn't need a fortune to run, protects you against all of them at once. Being out of high interest debt frees you the same way, no matter what's coming. And owning assets that grow works regardless of who's employed. These aren't old rules that AI made obsolete. They're the rules that were quietly waiting for a moment exactly like this one. The uncomfortable truth is that most people skipped them when times felt safe. And now the times don't feel safe, and the fundamentals are suddenly the most valuable things you can own. So let's build the legs, starting with the one that buys you the most calm. Layer 1 is your emergency fund, and in an economy that feels less predictable, you want it bigger than the old advice. The classic number was 3 to 6 months of expenses. If your field feels exposed, aim for the top of that, or past it. Think 6 months and up. Here's why it matters so much right now. An emergency fund isn't just for a broken car. It's the thing that lets you say no. When income gets shaky, the person with no cushion has to grab the first desperate option. The worst job, the panic decision, selling investments at the bottom. The person with a full cushion gets to choose. They can wait, retrain, negotiate. In a world of uncertain income, cash on hand isn't just safety, it's leverage, and it's the freedom to not panic when everyone else is. Layer 2 is the one people resist, but it might be the most protective of all. Lower the number your life needs to survive. Every dollar of fixed costs you cut does two powerful things at once. It shrinks the income you must earn to stay afloat, so a job wobble becomes survivable instead of catastrophic. And it widens the gap you can save and invest, which builds the next layer faster. The big three are where the years hide: housing, transportation, and debt. A cheaper housing decision, one reliable car instead of rolling payments, and killing high-interest debt can drop your required monthly number by hundreds, sometimes more. And watch the quiet trap on the other side: lifestyle creep. If every raise gets swallowed by a bigger life, your costs stay glued to your income, and you're just as exposed at a high salary as a low one. A lean life isn't deprivation here, it's armor. The less you need, the less any single paycheck can hurt you. Layer 3 is the direct answer to the whole fear. Stop standing on one leg. If a single salary is the fragile part, then the fix is more than one source of income, so no single one can knock you over. That doesn't mean burning yourself out with 3 jobs. It means building, over time, a second and eventually a third stream that don't all depend on the same employer or the same skill. A side income you own. Skills that travel to more than one field. And critically, income from money itself, from invested assets, which is the one stream that keeps paying whether or not anyone hires you. The goal isn't to get rich off a side hustle overnight. It's redundancy. Engineers build bridges with backup supports, so one failure doesn't drop the whole thing. Do the same with your income. When you've got 3 legs, losing one is a bad month. When you've got one, losing it is a crisis. Now let's talk about your main income, because there's a smarter play than bracing for impact. The people who struggle most are the ones trying to outcompete the machine at the thing the machine is good at. Raw speed, raw volume, doing the repetitive part faster. That's a race you don't want to enter. The people who do well use it as a tool that makes them more valuable, not less. They let it handle the grunt work and spend their time on the parts it can't do well. Judgment, relationships, taste, knowing which problem is even worth solving. Think of it less like a rival and more like a power tool. A carpenter didn't lose to the power drill. The one who learned it did twice the work. So the career move isn't to hide from AI. It's to become the person in your field who uses it best. That's not old rule versus new rule. It's the oldest rule there is. Stay adaptable, wearing this decade's clothes. Here's the part almost nobody connects, and it's the most important idea in this whole video. If AI really does make human labor cheaper in some fields, then something else gets more valuable at the same time. Owning the businesses that use it. Profits don't vanish. They shift from wages toward whoever owns the productive machinery. So the honest hedge against automation is to be on both sides of it. Earn as a worker, yes, but also own a slice of the companies doing the automating. And you don't need to guess which single AI company wins, which is a gamble. You buy a broad, low-cost index fund, a tiny piece of thousands of companies at once, and let the whole economy's productivity, AI included, work for you. Historically, that approach has returned somewhere around 7% a year. Call it about 5% after inflation. The honest number to plan with, not a promise. If the machines get more productive, the owners of the machines share in it. The old advice to own assets isn't weakened by AI. It might be the single most rational response to it. Before we make this practical, 4 traps, because the fear itself pushes people into expensive mistakes. Trap 1 is freezing. The anxiety is so heavy that people do nothing at all, and doing nothing is the one move that leaves you fully exposed. Trap 2 is overbetting on the winner. Dumping your savings into one hot AI stock because it feels like catching the wave. That's not protection, that's a lottery ticket. The broad, boring index is the hedge. The single bet is the risk. Trap 3 is panic itself. Pulling money out of the market every time a scary headline lands, and locking in losses that a patient investor just rides through. And trap 4 is the sneaky one. Using "the future's too uncertain" as an excuse to stop building, to quit saving, quit investing, quit planning, and just wait. But uncertainty is exactly when the fundamentals pay off most. The people who get hurt aren't the ones who prepared too early. They're the ones who kept waiting for certainty that was never coming. Let's turn all of that into 3 moves you can start this week. Move 1. Stretch your cushion. Look at your emergency fund and be honest about how many months it really covers. If your work feels exposed, set a target at the higher end, 6 months or more, and start automatically moving a set amount toward it every payday. This is the layer that buys you the right to not panic, so build it first. Move 2. Cut one fixed cost and invest the difference. Pick the biggest recurring expense you can realistically shrink this month. Make that one structural cut and set up an automatic transfer of what it frees up into a low-cost, broad index fund. One boulder off, one pipe on. That single change lowers what your life needs and grows what you own at the same time. Move 3. Plant a second leg. Spend a couple hours this week starting exactly one thing that isn't your main paycheck. A skill that travels, the first tiny step of a side income, or simply opening and funding that index fund account. You're not trying to finish it, you're getting off one leg and onto two. So here's the whole thing stripped to its bones. AI is real, and the worry is fair, but it doesn't erase the rulebook. It just punishes the one bet we were all quietly making. Everything riding on a single salary, forever. The fix isn't a secret, and it isn't new. Hold more cash than feels necessary, so you never have to panic. Shrink what your life costs, so no single paycheck can break you. Build more than one stream, so losing one is a bad month, not a disaster. Learn to use the machine instead of racing it. And own a piece of the businesses doing the automating, so you're standing on both sides of the change. None of that requires you to predict the future. It just requires you to stop betting everything on one leg. The people who'll be fine aren't the ones who guessed which job was safe. They're the ones who built something that holds up no matter which guess was right. You can start being one of them this week. So stretch the cushion, cut one cost, plant one new leg, and let the storm blow past something that no longer wobbles. That's the Money Debrief. My name is Dean, and if this video helped you out at all, subscribe and like to see more wealth building tips and advice in your feed. I'll see you in the next debrief.